Well, good morning and welcome to my YouTube channel. So this morning I've come up to Glen Orchy for a wee adventure, just to drive down the glen to see what I can find. Already I've just stopped at one of the local bridges, and as you can see, the colours in the river are absolutely stunning. So join me and let's see where this journey takes us. So I'm a wee bit, I don't know if I've got my timing wrong or if the weather's got the timing wrong, but when I checked the forecast, this is about the 8:30 in the morning, and there was supposed to be a weather front clearing by about 7:30, so obviously no one's told the weather, so the weather's running a wee bit late, so I'm still getting a lot of drizzle and rain. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a couple of grab shots here, because I just love the blues in the water and those little cascades there. So I'll take a couple of shots. If they work out, I'll share them with you. But on my way up this morning, on the east coast, there was an absolute starty, an amazing burst of a beautiful sunrise. Now I was in the middle of the country, so there wasn't really a lot of foreground interest. So if those images turn out, I took 2 or 3, I just stopped at the side of the road and I took a couple of images. If they turn out, I'll share them. And then when I got closer to Glen Orchy, I was sitting at the side of the road because I'd actually missed my turning. And as I was turning, I seen a stag behind me. So I nipped out the car and I took some shots of this stag that kept looking at me. So if those images have turned out, I'll share them with you. So you'll have a wee feast of sunrise, a stag, and maybe a couple of grab shots for here. If they've worked out, I'll share these images with you now. So as I drive down Glen Orchy, as you can see, I know it's still raining, but the views are spectacular. But you come across a couple of wee oddities, like this wee tree. So I'm looking for a composition to take a shot at the tree, and what I want to do is get the dark background so this tree stands out, because it's fully all that lichen. And then some of the older trees over here have got quite a lot of lichen. So when I was driving down, it looked like quite a nice composition there. So I might go and take a couple of shots of these trees. And Glen Orchy is actually quite famous. And Glen Orchy was kind of residence to the Clan MacGregor up until the 17th century, when all the Highland clearances stopped. But more so for Glen Orchy is probably the most southern point for all the Scottish Caledonian pines. So hopefully we'll get to see some interesting trees today. So what I'll do is, I'll see if I can get a composition with that wee tree sticking out the wall, and I'll see if there's another composition up here with some lichen-ridden trees. And if that works, I'll share these images with you now. Right, I've stopped off. There's a series of kind of rapids and waterfalls along here. It's pretty mucky. As you can see, we've still got drizzle. It's really atmospheric. Not quite the light I thought I was going to be getting, but hey ho, I'm just going to walk over to the edge here just to see if there's anything that might be of photogenic interest for us. Hoopla. Glad to put my wellies on. Oh wow, that's stunning. Right, I'm just trying to see how I navigate. There's a wee blob of snow. Oh, it's a stone. Right, what have we got here? That's a pretty scene. So I can either zoom in and take a shot of the kind of falls, or pull back and then use that as a leading line, which might be quite nice as a vertical. So let me get set up and I'll talk you through my composition. Alright, so I've got myself set up. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to use a close-up shot and just isolate the falls as much as possible. I've positioned them so that I don't have the sky in the zoom shot. I will have a wider shot later. But what I want to do is capture the falls coming in for the right and then flowing out the bottom left of my image. There's a beautiful concentration of water in here in the centre. There's a tiny little waterfall coming through on the left hand side there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my shutter speed to around about 1/4 of a second, which means I'm still shooting at ISO 100. I might need to lift my ISO a bit for brightness. And I've got my aperture set at f8. So what I'll do is I'll take a couple of shots, I'll zoom in, I'll take a medium shot and then I'll take a wide shot. And if those work in this miserable morning, I will share those images with you now. Alright, so for this shot I've put the camera down a wee bit lower because I want to shoot through these kind of rocks to see if I've got a kind of leading line as a V towards the waterfalls. So as you can see, I've got the rock face right in front of me and then that takes me to the waterfalls, but I do have that kind of V-shaped leading line. Now what I'm going to have to do here is I'm still shooting at f8, but I'm going to photo stack this image. So I'm going to take a shot where I'm going to focus here, a shot where I'm going to focus in those rocks, and then a shot where I'm going to focus on the far left hand side. And then what I'll do is I'll bring those three images together and I'll share that photo stacked image with you just now. Alright, so I thought I'd try a different composition. So I've got the camera turned round on portrait and vertical mode. So what you can see is I've got more of a kind of narrower definition of this rock in front of me, and I've got the puddles of water. I've got my polarizer on so there's no reflection on it, and that's taking me right through. So again, for this image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a three separate shots and stack that image just to make sure I've got sharpness from back to front. And then what I might do is take a couple of other compositions while the camera's vertical and we'll see how that turns out. And when these are finished, I'll share these images with you. Alright, so I popped onto the edge of that rock and I took some kind of closer shots face on towards the falls. So if those images have turned out, I didn't film myself just because it might have been a wee bit too slippy and a bit of hassle to come backwards and forwards. So if those images have turned out, I'll share them with you now. Okay, as I was walking back to the car, I spotted what might be a nice panoramic composition. So there's a little inlet over here on the left hand side and it's got some kind of foam just kind of swirling around, and then I've got the falls on the right hand side. So the lens isn't wide enough to get the whole scene. So what I'll do is I'll take a series of 4 or 5 images and I'll stitch them together. If this panoramic works out, I'll share this image with you now. You know that feeling you get sometimes when you're about to leave somewhere and you go, what if I go and have a wee nosy just before I go? Well, there you are. So I'm right at the base of the falls. They're not that photogenic because there's a couple of trees right in front of me. So if I move along to the left, I might be able to get a couple of shots. But that's not what I was trying to capture. I was trying to capture this scene. So the water comes down, flows past. We've got that inlet that we took a shot of in the panoramic. And then we've got the water that swirls round, but we've got this beautiful couple of trees here, and then the tree on the left hand side. I'm going to see if I can do this justice. I'm going to slow the shutter speed down I'll probably take the shutter speed down to about a kind of second, and then that will smoothen out the water as it goes past. As ever, that's how it's supposed to work. So if it does work, here's the image. Alright, so I promise I am leaving. So I did say earlier on, there was a tiny little bit of water, like a wee waterfall on the left hand side. So what I'm doing here is I'm just playing about with getting some close-up shots, getting some focal shots around the falls, and also getting that small waterfall, moving around the composition a little bit, just to see if it's of any interest. If any of these images actually work out, I'll share them with you now. Right, so our next stop is, I've just stopped at the side of the road for this little weir. Well, it looks like it's been an old weir at some point because there's a man-made concrete plinth there. Some beautiful little falls there. So I'm going to walk down to the bottom. The drizzle has slowed right down as well, so that's good news. So we're not getting rained on as much. So I brought my drone out, and hopefully there's a good chance I might be able to get some drone footage or images. Now, I'm just coming down to the base here. Oh wow, that's stunning as well. That's really nice. That scissor edge cut of the rocks. There could be something we might be able to do with that, especially maybe with long exposure. Wow, look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. Right, that water is crystal clear. That side is very, very deep. Okay, I shall have a wee look around first, take my time and see what can make quite a nice composition, and I'll catch back when I've picked the first one up. Oh, right, I'm just watching my footing because underneath my feet that sharp rock's really slippy, it's like ice. Anyway, I have a composition here where I've got all this white foam in the foreground. I've got this waterfall on the right and this waterfall on the left. So, whoops, my dilemma is when I put on the polarизer's not enough for the settings that I want. So if I want to get a quarter of a second, then it goes far too bright because there's too much white. So what I've done is I've put a 3-stop filter on, and then that acts as a kind of pair of sunglasses on top of my polarizer, and I'm going to take that shot. Then what I'll do is I'll take that ND filter off, and then I'll concentrate on taking 2 or 3 shots and isolate the falls on their own because they're pretty wide. So because they're pretty wide, it's probably not going to be that photogenic. So I'm going to focus in on a couple of the falls, some nice trees in the background there. But yeah, I'll take 2 or 3 shots here and I'll share these images with you now. Alright, so I'm attempting a long exposure just to see what it's like, and I'm using the ridge of the rocks here on the right hand side, and I've got it on a vertical format. If it works, I might go horizontal as well because there's quite a nice kind of basin on the left hand side there. Starting off with 4 minutes just to see, because it's quite dull, just to see how this works. And yeah, you never know. There's a lot of water movement coming in, so I'm hoping that gets softened out. Yeah, if any of these long exposures work, I'll spare you the wait. I'll share these images with you now. Alright, so I think those long exposures turned out. I've got my last long exposure. I've just set the camera up there and I'm leaving it there because I'm going to try and get all the rocks flowing and get this basin on the left hand side. And if we're lucky, we might get some streaks, but they'll be pretty soft because it's a 4-minute exposure. So it could just be quite a soft white line going down on the right hand side. Anyway, if that works, I'll share that image with you now. Right, that's that long exposure finished. So when I was standing there, I noticed there's an old set of steps. So they've kind of deteriorated at the top, but you can get down to the side and along over on the concrete plinth. So why don't we go down to the concrete plinth and see if we can get some shots closer to those falls. Alright, so I've had to put my ND8 grad filter on because it's just too bright, because the white of the water is just blowing the highlights everywhere. So what I thought I'd do is I'm just going to share with you the view. So this is a composition that I've got. I've got this waterfall coming through here. I've got the big rocks on the left hand side and the big rock on the right hand side, and we've got this water smoke flowing through here. I don't want the sky because there's actually nothing in the sky. The sky's just white and it's just mist, so there's no definition, no detail, nothing. So I'm just going to focus in on the falls. So when I'm taking shots of falls, I keep saying, oh, I'm going to use a 1/5 of a second or a 1/4 of a second. So what I'll do here is I'm going to show you the difference that shutter speed makes when you take a shot of waterfalls. And again, this is to everyone's taste. I like a slow waterfall where you've got the lines in the water. I don't like the fast flowing water that's frozen, only if there's big splashes. And sometimes with that really long exposure, it just washes out and makes all the water milky. So what I'll do is, I'll do 3 images, one that's got a long exposure, and I'll put the settings on the image so you can see how long I had it on and what the f-stop and the ISO was. I'll put a shot that I like to take of a 1/4 of a second, and I'll put in the appropriate f-stop and ISO, and then I'll do a faster shutter speed. I'll share these 3 images with you. And if whatever one you like, if you could drop a comment in the comments just to let me know and gauge what is it you like. Do you like a really slow shutter speed with waterfalls? Do you like a flowing shot, or do you like a fast shutter speed? Anyway, I'll share these 3 images with you now. Alright, so I've just come over here because what I want to try and do is get some different compositions of these falls and the water, and just try the different effects. A 1/4 of a second, a 1/3 of a second, so 0.3 of a second, who knows. I mean, I'm just playing around just to see what's a nice composition, and I'm going to zoom in to the falls. I'm going to do the streaks. I'm going to zoom into that little fall over there. I'll see if I can get a side shot of those falls on the left hand side. There's quite a nice wee stream flowing beside me here. I don't know if that'll make a nice image, but I'll try it. So any of these close-up shots that I'm going to take of these falls, I'll share them with you now. Alright, so I was walking around, there's nothing much else that I've seen, well, especially in this light. I seen a rock with a tree. I took a shot. I don't know if it works. If it does, I'll share it with you. Right, so I think I'm going to end the video here. The rain started to come back on again. Typical, I put the drone out and then the rain started again. So yeah, so I hope these images have worked out. I'm really interested to see if those long exposure images worked. Because it's just something different to do. And then also the different shutter speeds with the falls. Anyway, I'm going to finish the video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, that'll let you know the next time I post a video. So thanks very much for watching, and here's to the next video.